All right, welcome back. Today we're really digging into a story that sits right at the crossroads of, well, theology, archaeology, and pure legend.
We are.
We're talking about the ancient Arabian narrative of the Prophet Hud and the people he was sent to, the powerful and supposedly lost civilization of Ad.
And the sources for this are just fascinating. You've got, the Quran itself, specifically Surah Hud, but then you also have ancient poetry and even 20th century satellite imagery.
Exactly. So we're looking at a civilization that was so powerful it became like the very symbol of antiquity, yet its actual existence is pretty hotly debated.
It is.
So our mission today is to unpack all of this, the claims of their power, their fall, and the search for what some people have called the Atlantis of the Sands.
Okay, let's unpack this, and I think it's vital to start with the context.
Yeah.
This story is really foundational for understanding what's known as Al-Arab al-Baida.
Which means the extinct Arabs.
Exactly, the very earliest tribes that just vanished.
Hmm.
So the story serves this profound moral purpose, a parable about arrogance, really.
But what's so interesting is that this wasn't just a later invention. You mentioned that even before Islam, in the period of Jahila, the Ad were already famous.
Oh, absolutely. They were proverbial. Pre-Islamic poets would constantly reference them. If you wanted to say something was ancient or impossibly strong, you'd compare it to the Ad.
So the story was already in the cultural DNA of the region.
Deeply.
Oh,
Which gives us a solid place to start our investigation.
Okay, so let's start there. The Quranic narrative. What were the people of Ad actually known for?
Two things, mainly. Incredible physical stature, we'll get to that later, and just extraordinary architectural ambition. The sources say they built lofty pillars.
Iramda Aremad.
The one, Yidom of the pillars. So this isn't just a powerful city, it's people obsessed with building these massive, seemingly indestructible monuments.
And if they were this original powerhouse, where do we find them, geographically speaking?
The tradition is very consistent on this. It places them in southern Arabia, in a region called Al-Akaf.
The curved sand dunes.
Right. It borders the massive desert known as the Rub al-Khali, or the Empty Quarter, right between modern-day Yemen and Oman, a place that could easily swallow a civilization.
And this is where the story jumps from ancient text into, well, modern detective work, the Atlantis of the Sands. Tell us about Ubar.
Yeah, this is the really compelling part. In the early 1990s, a team of archaeologists using satellite imagery basically found the ancient equivalent of trade route intersections hidden under the sand.
Like ancient highways.
Exactly. And they all led to this one spot, an oasis in Oman called Shis. And there they found a huge lost trading center. They immediately nicknamed it the Atlantis of the Sands. We know it as Ubar.
Ubar was a hub for the frankincense trade, which was basically the oil of the ancient world. But why the connection to the Quranic city of Iram?
Well, a few big reasons. First, the geography is a perfect match, right where the legends say it should be. Second, it was a wealthy, powerful, sophisticated city, just like the Adder described. But the real kicker is how it was destroyed.
It wasn't just abandoned.
Not at all. The evidence shows Ubar was built on top of a massive limestone cavern filled with water. And at some point, that cavern collapsed.
So the city just fell into a sinkhole.
The whole central fortress did, yeah. It was swallowed by the earth, which gives you that sense of sudden, catastrophic, almost divine destruction that you read about in the narrative.
Yeah, and it makes sense because we know that area had other advanced cultures, like the Sabaeans. So an even earlier powerhouse isn't, out of the question.
Not at all. It's totally plausible. The Ad would be from that deeper, almost semi-mythical layer of Arabian history before the kingdoms we have clear records for.
Okay, so let's pivot from the where to the why. If we can potentially identify a real place, why does the Quran use this story as like the ultimate moral parable?
Here's where it gets really interesting. The main purpose of the story is to reinforce monotheism, Tawhid. The Prophet Hud's message was simple. Stop worshiping idols, return to the one God.
But it seems like their big sin wasn't just idolatry itself, but what came from it, this incredible arrogance.
That is the absolute core of it. They were punished for moral corruption. They had the wealth, they had the technology, they had the strength, and it led them to believe they were above accountability. They thought their material power made them invincible.
What did that corruption look like? I mean, how did it manifest?
The texts imply it led to tyranny. They built these monuments as vanity projects, sure, but they were also described as tyrannizing the land.
Yeah.
They used their strength to exploit weaker people, basically asking who is stronger than us.
So they were morally bankrupt.
Completely. And that's where the story becomes a demonstration of this idea of a divine pattern in history, the Sunnah of Allah.
This repeatable cycle.
Precisely. A civilization rises, gets powerful, becomes arrogant and oppressive, rejects guidance, and then it collapses. It's a sobering pattern. For the Prophet Muhammad, it was also a source of comfort.
How so?
It showed him that other prophets, even Arabian prophets like Hud, were called liars and madmen by their own people too.
And what about the climate connection? You hear that the Arabian Peninsula used to be green. Does that fit in?
It fits perfect.
Yeah.
Science confirms Arabia had these green Arabia wet phases. So a powerful agricultural society in what is now a hyper-arid desert. It aligns with the paleoclimate record. Their collapse might have even coincided with a massive climate shift.
Okay, so we have to address the elephants in the room, the parts of the story that, from a purely empirical view, are really hard to swallow.
We do. And the first one is huge, literally.
Yeah.
The claim in some traditions that the Ad were giants.
Right. I've seen figures like 60 cubits tall. That's, what, over 90 feet?
It is. And that immediately runs up against a major scientific wall.
The square cube law. Can you break that down for us? Because it's fundamental to why this is seen as impossible.
Sure. The square cube law basically says that as you scale something up, its volume, and therefore its weight, grows much faster than its surface area.
So for a human...
For a human, if you double their height, the strength of their bones only increases by a factor of 4. But their weight increases by a factor of 8.
Meaning their legs would just...
They'd snap instantly. And their heart could never pump blood that high. Biologically, a 90-foot person is an impossibility. So for skeptics, this is exhibit A, that the story is myth.
Okay, that's a powerful objection. What's the second big challenge?
The lack of corroboration. Simply put, Hud and the Ad are not in the Bible, not in the Torah, not in the Gospels, and for historians, that's often a key cross-reference for events in the ancient Near East.
And the third point is the destruction itself.
Yes, the supernatural element. The Quran describes a furious wind that blows for 7 nights and 8 days. For a secular historian, that sounds like a mythological device, a story created to explain ruins, not a verifiable event.
So how do religious scholars, especially modern ones, reconcile the faith narrative with, the laws of physics and historical record?
This is where you see a real split. The classical view is often one of literalism. The Quran is divine revelation, and just because we haven't found evidence doesn't mean it didn't happen exactly as described.
But the more modern rationalist schools take a different approach.
They do. Many of them turn to metaphorical interpretation, especially on the giants issue. They'll argue that the 60-cubit tradition is an exaggeration or a misreading.
So great stature doesn't mean tall.
It means civilizational power. Military might, architectural grandeur. Their civilization was a giant among nations, not the people themselves.
And for the catastrophic destruction, the U-bar discovery becomes their key piece of evidence.
It's their strongest argument. It's archaeological vindication. It proves a powerful city in the right place suffered a sudden, catastrophic collapse. The furious wind can then be seen as a metaphor for that event, a climate shift, massive sandstorms, or the sinkhole itself. The result was the same.
And the absence from the Bible.
That's turned into a point of strength. The argument is that it proves the Quran's originality. The Bible is focused on the Israelites in the Levant. Of course, it would mention an Arabian prophet sent to an Arabian tribe deep in the south.
So after we've gone through the text, the archaeology, the science, what does this all mean when you put it together? Where's the common ground?
I think all sides can agree on a few key things. Everyone agrees the story is set in a historically plausible context. South Arabia had powerful, advanced civilizations, and pre-Islamic Arabs definitely knew of the Ad as this symbol of lost ancient power.
So the disagreement isn't really about whether a powerful civilization existed, it's about the miracles.
Exactly. The disagreement is over the literal truth of the divine intervention, the giants, the magic storm. The Quran's contribution, you could say, was to take what might have been a vague local legend about some ruins and transform it into a very precise moral lesson about monotheism and the danger of arrogance.
It codified the moral of the story for all time.
It elevated those ruins into a universal cautionary tale, a warning that even the people who can build pillars so high they feel like gods can be wiped out if their foundation is rotten.
It's an incredible arc, from a legendary city to a real-life sinkhole at Gubar, filtered through all these debates. The story's power is clearly in its moral clarity.
And that brings me to a final thought. The story of Ad is explicitly called a sign for people who think. And it makes you wonder, in our own age, we look at societal collapse through the lens of economics or climate or politics.
Right.
But is there still value in that ancient idea? The idea that moral and spiritual arrogance, this belief that our technology or our power makes us untouchable, is just as destructive a force as any environmental disaster. What modern lofty pillars are we building right now without a solid ethical foundation?
A very profound question to think about. Thank you for guiding us through this amazing set of sources.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining the deep dive. We'll see you next time.